Okay, I gotta plug this in here. All right, good evening, Real Progressives. I'm Geoff Ginter with Real Progressives. It's Wednesday, 8 o'clock. I know I always start off, with, someone says this, someone says that. I do get a lot of people talking to me, emailing me, asking me questions, or just out and out saying certain things. And what really struck me this week, amongst a wide variety of things, is, again, we're getting into this area of healthcare is too expensive. And that leads to all kinds of people saying, we've got to be able to do this to rein in costs, and we've got to be able to do that to rein in costs, and this to rein in costs. And to that, I say, yes. Yes, we do have to rein in costs, because it does matter how much something costs. And there's all manner of reasons why that might matter. You might say it matters because I can't afford to spend X amount of dollars on X, Y, and Z. It doesn't really matter what we're talking about. If you have to flip the bill, it matters. To whoever is doing the paying, it matters. So then the question becomes, am I getting something for my money? Am I getting good value? Is it worth it? This is where we always get the, whatever the market will bear. As anyone who's ever sold anything on eBay will tell you, something that's not really worth much of anything can go for an incredible value to the one person for whom they find value in it. So it does matter how much something costs, and it does matter how much healthcare costs. And if you're the one flipping the bill, it matters. And if it's the state government that wants to do healthcare, it matters. If it's an insurance company that wants to give you access to healthcare through their insurance, it's going to matter. It's going to matter an awful lot because they don't want to pay it. But if you understand the macroeconomic reality of the United States government, Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, if you do not know this, please look it up. It is the beginning, the middle, and the end of the argument as far as I'm concerned. No matter what one might say about the Federal Reserve, no matter what one might say about X, Y, and Z, it doesn't matter. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution states that Congress, and only Congress, shall create the currency, shall create the dollar, the U.S. dollar. No one else can. Aetna does not create U.S. dollars. Kaiser Permanente does not create U.S. dollars. Your local hospital does not create U.S. dollars. Everyone that is not Congress, everyone that is not the federal government, are currency users, not currency issuers. Now, since we no longer have a gold standard, the federal government can have an unlimited money supply, functionally speaking. Not that they should. It's very important that we understand that we do have limitations. It's just not cost. So let me break this down for you. I'm not going to get too much into the details of MMT. There is a ton of academic articles and academic educational tools that are available. Go to Real Progressives, go to Deficit Alice, look up Stephanie Kelton, Warren Mosler, Ellis Winningham, Dr. Joe Firestone. It has been written about extensively. So by all means, please look into it. But for the purposes of this conversation, let's just assume the federal government creates the dollar. Why do we assume that? Because it does. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. There is no argument or debate about this. And I'll talk about debates coming up in a little bit. But there is no argument. I don't care what came afterwards. I don't care that they call it the federal, the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. There was a time when taxes paid for things. And the IRS was created during those times when we were on a gold standard, when we had to have a revenue on a federal level to be able to spend. But since Nixon took us off the gold standard, we no longer have need of revenue. The currency that the federal government had always been creating. They just pegged it to gold, but they always created the dollar. They just could not decide of themselves how many dollars to create. They had to peg it to gold. They were limited. So they needed to beg, they needed to borrow, they needed to tax. Take away the gold standard and replace it with nothing. Now suddenly the federal government can spend whatever is necessary. Functionally speaking, this means the federal government can spend whatever it wants. Whatever it goddamn wants to spend on, it can spend on. Whatever is for sale in US dollars, the federal government can pay. Does not mean that it should. It just simply means that it can. So every conversation we have about federal programs must be seen through that ideology. The federal government is not fiscally constrained. It is resource constrained, real resources. People, human resources, materials, concrete, steel, things of that nature. We are in the largest, richest resource country in the world, and as a net importer, we receive the benefits of the resources of the rest of the world. People that want to do business with us, that sell us their goods, that's resources we don't have to use up here. We simply buy them from them. We get all this stuff and we pay them in paper. The point is that we have to now, and when I say we, I mean we the people. If we leave this up to Congress, we will lose because we have been leaving it to Congress and we have lost big time. Because they understand, they know where the restrictions are. But they also know what our Achilles heel is. They know how to get us. Because they know, as we understand our economics, the economics of a household, you must earn before you spend. And if you want to spend more than you earn, then you must borrow. We understand that because we live it every goddamn day. So Congress will use that same ideology against us. They will tell us, all of them, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, White House, Senate, House of Representatives, doesn't matter. They will all tell us, we're broke, we can't afford it, the debt and the deficit are unsustainable. You, American people, cannot spend beyond your means. You cannot expect the federal government to do it. They're lying to you. They are counting on your ignorance on this issue. They are counting on you just trusting them. The federal government creates the dollar. You don't. ExxonMobil does not create the dollar. Ma Bell does not create the dollar. Federal government creates the dollar. Banks don't create high-powered money. That's the federal government. Banks create debt. You go to a bank, you get a loan, you don't have money per se, you get something you can spend, but you got to pay it back. So you didn't get money, you got debt. You purchased debt. Good on you. So this is what we're fundamentally dealing with when we talk about how you're going to spend, how you're going to pay for this. What does it matter how much it costs? So when we say that healthcare is so expensive, that everything in healthcare is so expensive and getting more expensive all the time, it is taking up more and more of the GDP. And this is true. But that only is a consideration if you consider who is doing the spending. Who's doing the heavy lifting here? If you're doing it through your insurance, your private for-profit insurance, it's on your back, it's on the backs of the insurance company, it's on the backs of everyone else. It's privately delivered. It is your debt. So it matters a great deal how much it costs, because for you, money is scarce. You have to earn it. You have to sweat and bleed for it. But if the federal government pays for it, if we say to the insurance companies, thank you for your disservice to the country, we don't need you anymore, for-profit healthcare has no business being a part of our culture. The federal government will pick up the tab. We're not going to be telling you what to do. We're going to help you with guidelines. We're going to make sure that we get something for the money, but we don't care about making profit. We don't care about getting it back because we don't care how much it costs. Doesn't mean it doesn't matter how much it costs because morality comes into play. If you look into actually why things cost the way they do, if you look into why the insurance companies pay the money, get the money that they get, it's not because it's worth that. It's because they can get that. Take it back to the eBay, idea. It doesn't matter what something is actually worth. It matters what you can get for it. It matters if you can talk someone into paying that price, whatever the market will bear. It doesn't matter what the true value is anymore. It only matters. As soon as they get one person to pay it, they'll get another person and another person. And before you know it, everyone is paying that price. And then they can just raise the prices all the time, all the time. That's for-profit healthcare. That is them charging so much money, not because it's worth it, but because they can. So, for the rest of the country, if we are going to do business like this, that is unsustainable. That is immoral. That is disgusting. Does it have to change? Absolutely. It must change. But if the federal government picks up the bill, it doesn't matter how much it costs. It matters where the money is spent. Down the line, universally, for government spending, it's not how much, it's where. Is the government making proper, smart investments in our country, in our people, in preserving resources for future generations? Are they contributing to GDP, and are they making sure that the playing field is level so that more people can enjoy that GDP? Are we in this together or are we not? Is it we the people or we the oligarchs? It doesn't matter how much the government spends. It matters where they spent that money. The purpose I'm bringing this up for is a lot of the people that I speak to, they want to change the system. They want the system to fundamentally change. They want to make sure that, the rich get taxed. And they want to make sure that the military-industrial complex is reined in. They want to make sure that Wall Street is brought to heel. They want to make sure that the insurance companies, are hopefully the people that I speak to, a lot of them say get rid of them. But then at the same time, they also say they don't want the government to get involved. Talking out of both sides of their mouth. But the point is that they want all these things to happen. They want all these things to happen. They want the Federal Reserve to go away. They want the banking system to collapse, and be replaced with something else. They want the military-industrial complex to go away. They want all these things. And they seem to want these things more than actually doing anything to save lives right now. It's like they know it's going to save lives eventually. Yes, there's no value in spending as much on the military as we do right now. It's begging for it to be used to have that much military. How can you build it and then do nothing with it? So yes, it has to be reined in. But it's so important. If you understand modern monetary theory, if you understand who creates money, who creates the dollar, then you understand that we don't have to do these things before we save lives with single-payer health care, before we save lives with the federal job guarantee, before we save lives with 100% green energy right now. We don't have to wait. It is detrimental to the health of your brothers and your sisters in your own country, in your own society, in your own neighborhood, in your own household. There is no one that I'm speaking to right now in this chat, in any chat, that does not know someone that is getting screwed that does not know someone that is this close to absolute abject poverty. You know these people. You meet these people every day. If you advocate for abolishing the military-industrial complex and Wall Street and fixing the Federal Reserve and doing all these things before you think we can do all these other good things, I want you to go to these people and I want you to explain to them why their lives are not worth what you think they are. I know you love these people. I know it. So show them that you love them. Show them that you love them by exploring every possibility imaginable. And we're telling you, here at Real Progressives, we are telling you that you don't have to stop the military before we get single-payer health care. We don't have to tax the rich into the Stone Age before we get 100% green energy right now. We don't have to change or abolish the Federal Reserve before we get free college education. The federal government doesn't need your taxes. Explain to me how it is that Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution says specifically that Congress shall create the currency. Then, understand that we are no longer on a gold standard. That currency that Congress creates is not pegged to anything. It derives its value from the very act of taxation. The federal government taxes you, ergo you need that currency, ergo you will work for that currency, ergo that's what gives it its value. Now, once you've understood that, would you please, for the love of God, tell me how it is that the government ever needs your taxes as revenue? How it could ever possibly need anyone's taxes as revenue? And if it doesn't need taxes as revenue, how in God's name do we have to tax the rich before we do anything? We absolutely, positively, with 100% certainty, must divorce and put a firewall between taxes and programs. I promise you, the very concept of having a pay-for attached to any piece of legislation is designed to make sure that that legislation doesn't see the light of day. Because as soon as we associate, I need that money before I could do that program, the moment you do that, you start off a fight that will guarantee to alter forever the course and trajectory of that legislation. That's what it's there for. The pay-fors are not there to pay for the program. The pay-fors are there to make sure that the program never happens in the first place. You think the rich are going to just let it go? You think they're just going to let their money go? Of course not. They're going to put up a fight. And they have the resources to put up a hell of a fight. Why would you give them that ammunition? A federal job guarantee is going to be a huge problem for the military. Right now, the military is de facto the employer of last resort. If you are in a bad situation, whether it be poverty or what have you, it doesn't matter. The military is your answer. Please don't grow up and pursue your dreams. Grow up and learn how to kill people that mean absolutely nothing to you, but they're a world away and we don't care about them. We care about their resources. We care about getting their oil. So the federal jobs guarantee is already going to be a problem, because if everyone has a job that wants a job, then no one is going to have to go to the military. I can't tell you how inundated I am with what little television I do watch, I am forever watching advertisements for the military, telling us how great it is, telling us how wonderful it is. The Army National Guard doing wonderful projects in your community. The federal jobs guarantee would be a real thorn in their side. They would be actually begging for people to join. Right now, they're just advertising, saying, hey, we're here. They know they're going to have the people. They know it. Because that same government has screwed the economy so badly that 50 to 60% of us are either in poverty or so close to it, we can French kiss it. One bad mistake away, one accident away, the missing of one paycheck, that's it. You're done. Does that sound like the greatest country in the world? In what planet is that the greatest country in the world that would allow that to happen to its citizens? And I'm not talking about lazy ass people. I'm not talking about people that don't want to work. I'm talking about people that are working. I'm talking about people that are working 2, 3 jobs, part-time jobs. That is not the greatest country in the world, but we can be. Make America great again? Fuck that. We've never been great. But we can be. The Constitution's preamble puts it perfectly. I will never stop talking about this. We, the people of the United States of America. That is all of us. That is every last one of us. The least among us, all the way up to the richest motherfucker around. That is all of us, not just some of us. We, the people of the United States of America. In order to form a more perfect union. Right there, you know the founders understood that they didn't have it right. They did the best they could. But this is the truth. They were misogynists. They were slave owners. They were too happy to engage in genocidal murder to be able to carve out a country for themselves. That is who our founding fathers were. But they were self-aware enough to put into the preamble the things that could make us great. And put into the preamble the concept that every citizen in future generations must, as a matter of civic duty, look to the Constitution and make sure that it is still doing the job that it is meant to do. We, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, support the general welfare, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. Establish justice. You look into the world. You tell me where the justice is. Justice is supposed to be blind. Every courthouse you walk into, that lady with the scales is blind. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what your bank statement says. It doesn't matter. Justice for everyone. Do you think we have it? 5 seconds looking through a newspaper will tell you, no, we don't. But we can. Ensure domestic tranquility. How in God's name can we have domestic tranquility when I can't have a job? Or when the job I have sucks and pays shit? And I am going into debt beyond my possible imaginings just to be able to fund this economy. An economy that, by the way, runs on sales. If people stop spending, then the whole thing comes crashing down. 40 years of neoliberalism, and we know for damn sure that trickle down means nothing. Giving the rich more money means nothing to the rest of us. We need bigger paychecks. We need to be able to fund the economy through our paychecks, not through debt. The problem we have with the money supply right now is that too much of it is bank money. It's debt. It is a net zero financial sum. The government spends on you, that's your income. You go to a bank, that has to be paid back. You have to pay it. Through a job that doesn't pay you enough. The reason you had to get the loan in the first place is because your job doesn't pay you enough. So where's the domestic tranquility there? Our healthcare system making us slaves to our jobs. Can't leave our job because that's where we get our healthcare. You get kids, you've got a food system and a water supply system that is making us sick and making us need our healthcare system even more. Where's the domestic tranquility? Provide for the common defense. Yeah. We sure as shit got that. It's really not the common defense anymore. It's the common offense. I am personally offended by that offense. Take a good look at what's happening in Syria. We're funding that shit. Take a good look at what's happening in Yemen. We're funding that shit. We're not defending ourselves. We're offending everyone else. And we have the audacity, the gall, to wonder why there are other countries in this world that don't like us. This country does not lead. This country bullies. And it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, it cannot continue to be that way. We have to change that. Support the general welfare. It says it right there in the Constitution, and it will say again in Article 1, Section 8. It is the government's job, as designed by the Founding Fathers, who did not enumerate any rights for anyone that was not themselves. But it was designed to make sure that the government was to pay to the public purpose. How do I know this? The Supreme Court said so. Now, in this particular case, I will concede the Supreme Court has gone back and forth. But the last time support the general welfare was brought before the Supreme Court, I think it was in the 1930s. I'll have to look it up again. It supported the idea that it was government's job to pay to the public purpose, to pay for public programs, to aid its citizens. To do what? To secure the blessings of liberty. Because if you are under the boot of the oligarchs, that is not liberty. That is bondage by any other name, by any other means. We can and must do better. It is our responsibility. And I have shirked my responsibility for 47 years, and I won't do it for another second. And I know that there are 260 million others out there that want to do their part. And it's time. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. You must look this up. You must get on board with our macroeconomic reality. Because that's what it is. It's the way it works right now. Right now, modern monetary theory, or as Johnny Axam just recently said, modern monetary truth, is the way we finance our government. Congress decides what they want to spend on. They call that a budget. I hate that word in relation to a federal payment. A budget supposes that there's only so much money available. Let's just call it federal priorities for fiscal year 2018. Federal priorities for fiscal year 2019. It is our job as citizens to make sure that they get their priorities straight. Why? Because we, the people. It specifically says in the preamble, we the people, not we who happen to be in Congress this year. People talk about the government like it's the boogeyman. I got people telling me, you really want single-payer health care? You really want, the federal government telling you what you can and can't do? I don't understand that logic. Your insurance company already tells you what you can and can't do. I am on the phone every goddamn day with insurance companies, begging them to pay and cover the cost of medications and procedures that are life-saving. And they don't want to fucking do it. Because the insurance company is in business. Which means that they have to suck the last amount of profit out of a situation. That's their job. That is the job of anyone that is in business. It may not be your only job, but it is your first and most important question in business. How do I make the most money? And if you're in healthcare, the Hippocratic Oath says, do no harm. So your first and most important question is and must be, what is in the best interest of my patients? And since what is in the best interest of your patient is a money-losing proposition many times, if you are in business, you cannot be in healthcare. And if you are in healthcare, you cannot be in business. Notice, I did not say should be. You cannot be. One is anathema to the other. So for-profit healthcare is disgusting, it is immoral, and it has a body count. The third leading cause of death in this country, medical errors. That is because of for-profit. That is because of insurance companies trying to get the most profit out of you, not your best medical and health outcome. But it has to be paid for, doesn't it? Your healthcare must be paid for. Doctors are not going to work for free. Pharmaceuticals will not work for free. I'm in healthcare. I won't work for free. Not forever, anyway. So someone has to pick up the bill. And if it can't be for profit, then who could possibly do it? Especially starting right now, because the costs, because of the way the system has been run, are so astronomical, so incredibly overinflated. Who could possibly, not for profit, cover the cost of everyone's health care in this current climate? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, Mr. Ginter? The federal government can, because the federal government creates its own currency and can never go insolvent, can never be unable to pay its bills, can pay for anything that is for sale in its own currency. Congratulations! The federal government can pay for anything that is for sale in its own currency. It can never go broke. It can never be unable to pay its bills. It can never be insolvent. It can make stupid-ass political decisions, like going back on a gold standard, and do those things. But as a macroeconomic reality, none of those things must come true, because we create the currency. It is a bottomless, endless well. I will say it again, because it's very important, because the people that come out against this will hear what I just said and say that people that espouse MMT think we can spend endlessly. No, we can't. And people that are serious about MMT put this up front and center. We do have limitations, and it is inflation. And inflation happens for a wide variety of reasons. For the purposes of this conversation, because the argument against MMT, using MMT in this way, the unlimited supply of money theory, is that you will put too much money out there and you will have inflation. Too much money first, then inflation. That is a possibility. We can put too much money into the economy and not have enough goods and services on the back end for that money to purchase. Put it another way, if everyone is rich and everyone wants to have a Maserati, well, the cost of your Chevrolet is going to go through the floor because no one's going to want to buy that piece of shit. I'm sorry if you like Chevys. I actually don't care. But if everyone wants a Maserati, the cost of the Maserati is going to go through the roof. Which is why we must balance the economy. We can never, ever, from the federal budget, from the federal perspective, balance the books. We balance the economy. We look at our jobs. Are they good paying jobs? Are they across the board? Is everyone employed that wants to be employed? Are we making things? Are we educating people? Are we making investments in our future to make sure that we will have resources in the future so that all our future beneficiaries, Social Security payments and Medicare payments, et cetera, will they find goods and services to purchase? It's going to take good stewardship of our economy. It is going to take people that understand where the dollar is created, how it circulates, and where it goes to die. That's all MMT is, by the way, a pure description of the currency. What you want to do with that knowledge is a completely different issue. Right now, we are using that knowledge in Congress to enrich oligarchs. We are using this knowledge to enrich the military-industrial complex, to give Wall Street billions of dollars, and impoverishing everyone else. They are privatizing everything. Why? Because there is money to be made. A metric ton of money to be made. You think insurance companies are in healthcare because they have an altruistic bone in their body? No! They're doing it, making the amounts of profits that they are because there's profits to be made. You think the pharmaceutical companies make up medications because they love healing people? No, they don't love healing people. If they did, diabetes would have been eradicated. They want you living with these things. They want you limping along. The food industry pumping everything up with sugars and salts and fats so you want it like crack. They're doing it for money because they're making sure that you want it, that you think about it. And the grocery stores put it as advertising everywhere. All the good shit, man. It's all within arm's reach and you want it. And it's poison, all of it. And the food industry knows it. They're not doing it on purpose. They don't look to kill you. But as long as you're giving them money, they have no interest whatsoever in giving you healthy food. We complain about fats, they just up the sugars and the salts. They substitute one poison for another. They don't care about you. They don't want you to die because then you're not giving them money, but they don't care if you're healthy. And then the pharmaceutical companies pick it up on the back end. They don't want you cured because if you're cured, you don't need the only thing that they're selling you. The food industry could at least turn around and produce nothing but healthy food. The pharmaceutical companies can turn around and sell you what? They're in the business of medications. If you're healthy and don't need medications, you don't need them. Ergo, they're not making any money. So no, they don't look to heal you. They're looking to profit off of your situation. Back in the days when banking was boring, you simply went in, you made deposits, they did no one went into banking to be a billionaire. Not anymore. Because of the federal government isn't paying to the public purpose. If they are putting all this cash into circulation but making sure that it goes to the top 1% and we get dick, we can't finance our lives. Remember, I said it runs on sales. If we're not purchasing, the whole fucking thing comes down. This is a pay-for economy. You must pay. You must purchase things in order for there to be an economy. You have a job because someone somewhere paid something. If they're paying from their paycheck, we have a robust economy. If they can't, and they have to finance their lives by going to a bank or a credit card or a predatory lender, which, by the way, more and more people are using to buy groceries with, then yeah, the economy limps along. But we eventually will collapse. And as we collapse, so does the economy. The rich, the job creators, cannot create jobs if there's no one on the bottom spending. And we cannot spend forever if we're spending it on credit. I worked 13 years at a credit union. I'm not rich. Exactly. At a credit union. That's not Goldman Sachs. Again, let's be very clear here. I don't hate rich people. I don't hate anyone. I'm angry at a lot of people. But I don't hate anyone. I don't hate rich people. I don't begrudge you for being rich. It doesn't matter that you are rich. It matters these three things. It matters how you became rich. It matters what you do with your riches. And it matters how you maintain your riches. Those three things are going to mean the difference between whether or not you are a good rich person or a bad white. I don't like that. We're a good rich person, bad white person. But basically, the morality of being rich is wrapped up within those three things. There is nothing inherently immoral in riches. There is a lot of potential immorality in those three things. How you got rich, how you stay rich, what you do with your riches. So be careful what you do, because it matters. It matters a great deal. Secure the blessings of liberty. Support the general welfare. Establish justice. This is what the preamble teaches us. It teaches us that we are one people. Man, woman, child, white, black, Hispanic, Oriental, First Nations. We are all one people, one United States. And everything I just said is true conditionally. Because we have got to decide within the confines of our own hearts and our own minds, is that true? Do we want it to be true? Of course, LGBTQ, absolutely, everyone. Do we want this to be true? If the answer is yes, then that is an awesome responsibility. Because now that comes with a responsibility and a calling. Because if you want it to be true, you have to make it be true. I'm sorry, Guillaume, I can't run for office. I would have to quit my job, and that would make me lose my health benefits. And I can't. No one's been able to tell me how I can do both. So can't do that. But it is a responsibility. You have to make it come true. You have to put that plan into action. So it's going to matter very much what you do. It's going to matter very much what you say, what you talk about. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It matters how we think about people. It matters a great deal how we think about people. Because that will go 100% towards how we treat those people. Now, I promised I was going to talk about debating for a little bit, and I am. I also want to talk about gun violence a little bit. Because I'm never letting this one go. Since Parkland, I have made a vow. I am never not talking about that. But I've only got a few minutes left. When it comes to debating, I've seen several people debate online recently. And it's different when you see people debating, in Facebook Live or what have you, versus when it's just comments, And this is all part of social media. We have got to stop the depersonalization of what we're all going through. We have got to stop believing that we exist in a bubble, because your head may be in a bubble, but the rest of your body is not. You live and you operate on the same planet as everyone else. So we've got to start talking to people like they matter. Like they have an opinion that, though it may not be yours, and though it may make you want to scream, you've got to rein yourself in. And if you can't reach them, move on. Because if it gets down to a yelling match, a screaming match, if you're just trying to not win the argument, but beat the other person, you've done at least as much damage as you've done good. So I implore everyone, have the debates. We must have them. It is essential. But it matters how we have them. I'm not saying don't get angry. I'm not saying that at all. I speak a lot about love, and love has nothing to do with the absence of anger. Anger is important. It will get you motivated. It will get you up in the morning. It should not be a 24/7 feast. Anger can be a motivator, but it must be anchored, rooted in love. That is essential. Of the two, love is the only thing that is important. Anger can simply motivate that love to action. So again, I'm not saying don't get angry. I'm not saying don't get frustrated. People are dying. Almost 300,000 people a year die because of for-profit health care. And the most benign resistance to modern monetary truth that I have come across is we can't risk the inflation. Are you fucking kidding me? 300,000 people conservatively die every year because of the for-profit health care. And you would have them die. 300,000 people this year, another 300,000 next year, and the year after that. Because you're afraid there might be a little bit of inflation? I will risk inflation to save 300,000 people. I will risk inflation to save 50. Where the hell is your head? I have not run across a single person that I believe in their heart does not love their fellow human, does not love their environment. I know it. I see it, even if I disagree voraciously with it. With what their opinion is. I know that they're doing it because they love. But you've got to get past whatever wall you're in front of. 300,000 people every year, and that is just as a result of health care. I'm not even factoring in all the people that commit suicide every year because of economic austerity and depression. Domestic abuse and violence, gun violence. I'm not even putting all those in. I'm saying just the healthcare issue alone, 300,000 people, and you're worried about a little bit of inflation. Y'all got some thinking to do. Y'all got some soul searching to do. And while I may respect you as an individual, I abhor your point of view, and I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to keep you from public policy making. Because you're dangerous. Right now, the most dangerous thing proposed by those of us in the MMT community is a little bit of inflation. Not even hyperinflation. Hyperinflation when prices are going up 100, 200, 300, 800% a day. There must be a cataclysmic event. There must be a war, the destruction of your productive capacity, the inability of your countryside to be able to produce food and goods and services, the stupid choice to have taken on debt denominated in dollars that are not of your currency. There must be some cataclysmic event for there to be hyperinflation. The inflation we're talking about is creeping inflation. A little bit of inflation, which we can deal with. The unemployment rate that would happen as a result of the insurance companies going under because we're taking away 100% of their business. We can deal with that with a federal job guarantee. We can deal with unemployment. We can deal with people losing their jobs. You know what we can't deal with? We can't bring back people from the dead. We cannot resurrect 300,000 people every fucking year. So get your head on straight. Yes, there are risks to spending money at will. But they are minimum compared to the risks we are experiencing right the fuck now. Which leads me to another thing that's happening right now. Gun violence. You may have gotten the idea from the talking that I've been doing that I do not espouse the idea that any solution is simple. Because it took many roads for all the ills that we have right now. It took many roads to get where we are right now. I see far too many people looking to be able to solve the problem with what they call the silver bullet. If we could just do this, we would fix XYZ problem. No! Many of the silver bullets I keep hearing about probably wouldn't even solve anything. At best, it'll mitigate it. I don't want to mitigate the problems that we have. I want to eradicate them. I don't want to mitigate poverty. I want to eradicate it. I don't want to mitigate medical errors as a result of austerity and for-profit healthcare. I want to eliminate it. That is not saying I'm going to say that people won't die anymore. Of course they will. But they're dying in numbers that are untenable, immoral. So when it comes to gun violence, there are a lot of reasons why we have gun violence in manners that other countries do not. We have a lot of mental health issues in this country, but mental health issues alone are not the only solution. We have a lot of crime in this country because there's a lot of poverty. Tell me, any child, if you could come with me with just one child who says, I want to be a gangster when I grow up. I want to be a crook when I grow up. They may play cops and robbers. They may play, these games, but no one wants to be a villain. No one wants to kill. No one wants to take life. But if you don't give them a job, if you don't give them something productive to put their minds in their hands to, shit's going to go down. But it's not the only factor. It's simply a contributing factor. We also have an incredible amount of guns in this country. Readily available. The NRA is not an organization any longer designed to gun safety. The leadership of the NRA is the advertisement wing of the gun manufacturing lobby. The job of the leadership of the NRA is not to educate you about gun safety. It is to make sure that you are afraid so that you will purchase more guns. They don't work for you. They work for the gun manufacturing companies. We are not going to rid the world of gun violence if we simply give everyone a job. It will mitigate it tremendously. We are not going to end mass shootings if we simply do take care of mental health. It will mitigate it tremendously. We will not mitigate all the mass shootings if we simply get rid of all these semi-automatic rifles. though it will mitigate it significantly. We must do all these things. It is imperative that we do all these things. For those that are into the Second Amendment, remember, 200 years of this country and Supreme Court decisions did not affirm the right of the citizen to keep and bear arms for the purposes of self-protection. They said specifically it's a check on the government. You can have a gun if your purpose is to join a militia. 200 years, 200 plus years. And it took 30 years for the NRA to change the national conversation and understanding of the NRA, of the Second Amendment, to make people believe that it was for any citizen to own any gun in any amount, no matter what. So then we get Washington versus Heller, the first Supreme Court decision that affirmed the right for a citizen to carry a handgun for self-protection. But even that decision specifically said that the federal government has every right to restrict the sale of guns. They could get to decide who gets to have a gun, what kind of gun, how many guns, how many rounds of ammunition, all of it. So know your Second Amendment. You do not have the right to an AR-15. You don't. There is no Supreme Court decision in the history of the United States that says that you do. If I'm wrong, show me I'm wrong. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Show me. So I've looked this up. If you've looked it up and you found something I didn't, show me. The only thing that's going to do here is that. You cannot tell me. You have nothing to tell me, but you might have something to show me, and I would be grateful to see it. With that, I'm out. I want to make sure that we leave on a note of positivity. I know this sounds, I have to laugh even as I'm saying this, because I'm just coming down off a rant, but it's very important. Remember, I'm not saying don't get angry. I'm not saying don't get righteous. I'm saying do it for the right reasons. Remember love. It's the only thing that's important. Love does not mean, I'm not talking about being hippies. There's nothing wrong with that. But you've got to have fire in your belly. You've got to have steel in your spine. And all that is wonderful as long as you have love in your heart. Remember love. I'll be back next week. Stay tuned for Savage Joy. It's going to be an awesome show. I love you guys. Talk to you later.